Law 12, the Law of Gender Rigidity. Reconnect to the masculine or feminine within you. Do not be afraid to bring out the more sensitive or ambitious sides to your character. These repressed parts of you are yearning to be let out. We all have a mixture of masculine and feminine qualities which are due to our genetics, but also the influence of the parent of the opposite sex. But in order to play the gender role expected of us by society, we tend to repress some of these qualities, and we lose important dimensions of our character. You need to look within yourself and discover those traits that are repressed and underdeveloped. Psychologist Carl Jung identifies these different dimensions of our character as the anima, which is the unconscious feminine part of a male, and the animus, the unconscious masculine part of a female. When we fall in love, we become victims of emotions that we cannot control. We make decisions about partners we cannot rationally explain, and our bad choices of partners are often repeated over time, as if we are driven by some demon deep within ourselves. It is common for relationships to fall apart due to miscommunications on both sides, and without knowing the reasons for the breakdown, we will go through the exact same process with the next person. Gender projection types. The variation of gender projections are infinite, but here are the 6 most common types. As we go through these projections, try to recognize any tendencies towards one of these forms of projection within yourself. Furthermore, watch out for how people will project their desires and fantasies onto you. The devilish romantic. The woman who is usually drawn to a man who is older and successful and who can lavish her with attention and gifts. In order to attract his attention, she decides to seduce him. After time, however, she realizes that his masculine, powerful, and romantic qualities fall short of what she imagined. The attention she gets is not sufficient or does not last long enough. She is powerless to change him, and he will not change, so he walks away from her. A woman in this scenario has become trapped by the attention paid to her by her father in early childhood. It becomes her lifelong goal to reclaim that attention and the power that came with it. To attract this attention that they desire, they have to constantly be flirtatious and charming. The elusive woman of perfection. The man who thinks he has found the perfect woman. Although he hasn't had many encounters with the woman in question, he can imagine all kinds of positive encounters with her in the future. Despite his best efforts, he will quickly become disenchanted. Her character is not what he thought it would be. She deceived him. He then proceeds to project his fantasies onto the next woman. Often men susceptible to this projection grew up without a supportive mother. A mother of this sort might have expected her son to give her the attention and support that she was lacking from her husband. And due to this role reversal, the boy who becomes a man feels emptiness inside and a need to fill the attention that he didn't receive in childhood. The lovable rebel. The woman who is attracted to men that have a disdain for authority. This man, unlike the devilish romantic, is usually young and unsuccessful. Moreover, he tends to be outside her usual circle of friends. Even though the relationship breaks apart, the fantasy remains intact. Women with this projection often have a distant and strict father who is strong and patriarchal. As a girl, she dreamed of being independent and assertive, but was restricted to following her father's orders and playing the role of the obedient daughter. The fallen woman. The man who is attracted to the opposite of what he used to be, good, obedient, and trustworthy. This type of man often had a strong mother figure as a child, and subconsciously they gravitate towards women who are imperfect, bad, or from different cultures and/or social classes. His goal is to rescue her, but over time he realizes she isn't what he had expected. These men have a passive and masochistic anima, and they are often merely used as pawns by these women. The superior man. The woman who is drawn to the superior man. His confidence and power radiate through him. He could be a successful businessman or a professor. Among women, this type of projection is very common and is due to feelings of inferiority. Being unable to develop her own confidence or strength, she tends to search for these traits in men and exaggerate their appearance in her imagination. She often attracts men who are attracted to younger women, whom they can dominate. The professor seducing the student scenario. Typically, these men fail to be as clever or as brilliant as she imagined. So the woman either leaves disappointed or gets stuck with her low self-esteem and bends to his manipulations. She should cultivate genuine self-confidence so that she can evaluate the value and character of the men she meets before being misguided. The woman to worship him. The man who seeks a woman who will worship him. His life is hard, but he is driven and ambitious. His life seems to be lacking something. A woman comes along who is warm, attentive, and engaging to him. When he pursues certain types of women, he subtly positions them to play the mother role so they can support, adore, and enhance his ego. Generally, this male projection stems from his relationship with his mother, who adored him and lavished him with attention. She has empowered the boy, and he becomes addicted to that kind of attention. He seeks and expects that same attention from the women he meets. This man should see the patterns of these relationships throughout his life. He must be able to take care of himself. The original man or woman. When we were children, our sense of self was rather fluid. During our youth, however, we needed to establish a social self, one that was cohesive and would allow us to fit in. To achieve this, our free spirit had to be trimmed and tightened. And this tightening was largely driven by gender roles. To feel and present a more consistent self, we had to suppress our masculine or feminine qualities. If you're interested in finding a better balance, pause the video now and see how masculine and feminine traits tend to differ from each other. Do not play the expected gender role, but rather create one that suits you.